You mean to tell me if Steve Harvey, your favorite comedian, you mean you've been waiting for him to do stand-up for 15 years now?
The rivalry between comedy giants Steve Harvey and Katt Williams has reached a boiling point, and during a live Q&A, 75-year-old Samuel L. Jackson revealed shocking allegations about the pressure in Hollywood for male comedians to wear dresses, something many believe is part of an initiation into the industry's deeper, darker side. With Katt Williams's intimidating presence leaving many in fear, the question arises, who's telling the truth? Who's playing games? Let's dive into this controversy-filled tale that will make you think twice about the true power behind the laughs. Jackson's words have raised questions about the already fragile relationship between two of the finest stand-up comedians in the industry. During his talk, he delved into the backstory of their rivalry, one that dates back much further than many fans might have realized. The conflict allegedly started years ago, reaching a boiling point during the 2017 Def Comedy Jam. Jackson highlighted a key moment from the show when Dave Chappelle gave Katt Williams a well-deserved recognition. The audience, as well as the comedians, burst into laughter, with Williams joining in on the fun. However, Steve Harvey, who was also present, seemed visibly uncomfortable and tense. Many believe this moment was driven by envy as the spotlight shifted away from Harvey and onto Katt Williams. In an attempt to regain attention, Harvey made a comment that seemed aimed at drawing the focus back to him. "I'm nervous as hell right now." But Dave Chappelle, undeterred, continued to speak highly of Katt Williams, redirecting the audience's attention once again. Realizing his efforts weren't working, Harvey tried again, saying, "Let me ask you this. When have you ever seen this many heavy hitters all together at the same time in the same room?" This remark seemed to take the focus off Williams once again. Though the audience may not have caught the subtle shift in focus, insiders in the comedy world recognized it immediately. Many, including Samuel L. Jackson, expressed disappointment, believing that moment belonged to Katt Williams. While Williams wasn't on stage or part of the lineup, they felt he deserved his time in the spotlight. After all, he had paid his dues in the comedy world and earned the recognition he was receiving on one of the most significant comedy stages in the country. For many insiders, Steve Harvey's attempt to steal the spotlight from Katt Williams was seen as a low blow. They believed that as a seasoned professional, Harvey could have waited for a moment, perhaps adding a few words about Williams' legacy before shifting the focus. But instead, Harvey couldn't resist the urge to redirect attention back to himself, a move they viewed as driven by his ongoing rivalry with Katt Williams. Insiders argued that while Harvey could have stolen the spotlight with some finesse, his abrupt shift was rough, and it reeked of envy. However, Steve Harvey wasn't the only one who subtly tried to claim the spotlight that night. Cedric the Entertainer, though more discreet in his actions, also made a move that didn't go unnoticed by fans. Observant viewers caught Cedric nervously laughing during Dave Chappelle's monologue about Katt Williams, almost as if he couldn't wait for it to end. But when Harvey made his second attempt to seize the focus, Cedric quickly supported him with a loud, "Yeah," as if signaling it was time to move on from Katt and get back to business. Though Cedric's behavior was more understated and easy to overlook, many in the industry weren't pleased with his actions. They believed that Cedric could have at least pretended to be happy for his colleague, who wasn't even on stage with them at the time. It was 2017, 7 years before Katt Williams publicly called out both Harvey and Cedric during his interview on Club Shay Shay, and fans began to question why these two comedians were treating Williams this way. The answer, according to Samuel L. Jackson, lies in the fear that both Cedric and Harvey had of Katt Williams. Jackson reportedly shared that they weren't afraid of Williams physically, but rather they feared that he would steal the spotlight away from them. Jackson pointed out that in a video of the event, Harvey's nervousness was apparent when he said, "I'm terrified. Katt Williams is going to show up. I'm nervous as hell." It seems that beyond his attempts to redirect attention, Harvey was genuinely intimidated by the presence of Katt Williams, fearing that Williams would dominate the moment. Samuel L. Jackson reportedly revealed that Steve Harvey and Cedric the Entertainer's fear of Katt Williams stems from the belief that Williams is simply a better comedian than they are. Katt himself hinted at this during an interview with Shannon Sharpe, where he took shots at both Harvey and Cedric. He recalled an incident early in his career when he and Steve Harvey participated in a comedy battle, a competition that Katt claimed he completely dominated. This took place during the 2008 Championship of Comedy, a show where the two comedians were scheduled to perform. While the event wasn't initially pitched as a direct face-off between them, Katt apparently grew frustrated with Steve Harvey's antics and decided to make a point. He seemed to provoke Harvey into a confrontation, even making personal jabs about the talk show host's appearance. One of the most notable jokes he made was about Steve's hair, or rather, the lack of it. Katt mocked Steve, claiming that the game show host wore a man's wig, a fact that was not widely known at the time. Steve had always sported a high-top fade on TV, and his hairline was something many admired, especially younger men whose hairlines were rapidly receding. In fact, Steve's iconic hairstyle had earned him admiration in Hollywood, with many praising his look and ranking him among the best-looking black men in the industry. His hair seemed to be a symbol of confidence, as heads would turn whenever he walked by. So, when Katt Williams relentlessly joked about Steve's hairless head, it struck a significant blow to his self-esteem. It's hard to say exactly how Steve felt at the moment, but it was clear that Katt's comments had an impact. In the years that followed, Steve eventually abandoned the wig and opted for a clean-shaven look, seemingly confirming Katt's playful criticism. Today, Steve proudly sports his bald head, which pairs perfectly with his well-groomed mustache. It was a big transformation for someone who once hid his true appearance behind a wig, and many speculated that Katt Williams' words had something to do with it. Katt Williams once claimed that his words had such a profound impact on Steve Harvey that it caused the veteran comedian to step away from stand-up entirely. According to Katt, Steve struggled to face his audience after their heated exchange. If Katt's account holds any truth, it would explain why Steve Harvey might have been so intimidated by the presence of Katt Williams. After all, how could anyone feel comfortable when the person responsible for ending their stand-up career is in the same room? It's no wonder that Samuel L. Jackson allegedly pointed out that Steve gets visibly tense whenever Katt is nearby. This theory would also shed light on why Steve Harvey admitted to feeling nervous during a 2017 event at the Def Comedy Jam 25, where Dave Chappelle made a joke about Katt Williams. The tension was palpable, and Steve's anxiety was clearly linked to the memory of his own stand-up career being derailed by Katt's remarks years earlier. But the dynamic didn't stop with Steve Harvey. Cedric the Entertainer's nervous energy during the same event was subtle, but it speaks to a deeper, more complex issue. Many fans weren't even aware that Cedric and Katt Williams had a feud until Katt revealed the backstory during an explosive interview on Club Shay Shay. Katt explained that Cedric had stolen one of his best jokes. This wasn't just any joke. Katt described it as the one that made his career, the one he used as his closing bit during his appearance on BET's Comic View in 1998. The joke was so successful that it became part of the network's commercial for the following season. But Katt said Cedric, who had watched him perform it at the Comedy Store, saw an opportunity to claim it as his own. After congratulating Katt on his performance, Cedric took the joke and used it as his own closing material, changing only a small detail about the joke's setting. For Katt, it wasn't just any stolen punchline. It was the joke that had defined his career. Katt's accusations didn't stop there. He went on to criticize Cedric's comedic abilities, calling him a walrus with no talent. He even went so far as to claim that Cedric couldn't sing, dance, or write jokes, pointing out that none of Cedric's comedy specials were good enough to be available on platforms like Netflix or Tubi. These harsh words may seem extreme, but when you consider the serious accusations Katt has made against Cedric and Steve Harvey, it starts to paint a picture of a deeply complicated and competitive industry. Katt also accused Cedric, Steve Harvey, and Ricky Smiley of conspiring against the late Bernie Mac. He alleged that while the three comedians pretended to be friendly with Bernie, they secretly harbored resentment toward him and worked to undermine his career. Katt even went so far as to claim that Steve Harvey was jealous of Bernie's acting career because studios wouldn't give Steve the same opportunities. Every year, Hollywood sees 30,000 new scripts, yet none of them were ever looking for a country bumpkin black man who couldn't speak properly and looked like Mr. Potato Head. To make it in the industry, you had to have range. Katt Williams believed that Steve Harvey and his circle did their best to sabotage Bernie Mac's career, but their plans didn't unfold the way they expected. According to Katt, the Kings of Comedy cast made the decision to place Bernie as the opening act while letting Steve go last, believing Steve to be the funniest of them all. However, when the footage was edited, the producers decided to place Bernie's performance at the end because, in their view, his set was the most hilarious. At the time, this seemed like a strange claim, but things began to make more sense when DJ Ed Lover confirmed Katt's story. Lover, who was a close friend of Bernie Mac, recalled that Bernie himself had told him about Steve's alleged attempts to sabotage him. According to Lover, Bernie said Steve had tried to get him removed from a role in Ocean's 11 and had done similar things behind his back. Lover said, "I believe Bernie Mac when he said Steve Harvey hated on him." This only added weight to Katt's accusations, showing a pattern of behavior that Samuel L. Jackson had been alluding to. The more these stories came to light, the clearer the picture became. It seemed as though a small group of men had formed a sort of clique, using their power to crush other comedians who didn't play by their rules. They stole jokes, manipulated situations to keep the spotlight on themselves, and even contacted movie studios to claim roles that rightfully belonged to others. While many of their victims kept quiet and focused on their own careers, like Bernie Mac, who knew exactly what was going on but chose to stay silent, outspoken comedians like Katt Williams couldn't remain quiet. When they saw what they felt were injustices, they spoke out, revealing the truth of what was happening behind the scenes. This is likely why Steve Harvey and his circle were so intimidated by Katt. Interestingly, Katt Williams isn't the only comedian who has publicly criticized Steve Harvey for his treatment of other comedians. Veteran comedian Mark Curry also shared his frustration with Steve, accusing him of stealing his jokes and using them in his comedy routines. Mark explained how he first discovered this when he received a phone call from a friend telling him to tune in to One Network. When he did, he was shocked to see Steve Harvey performing one of his favorite jokes from years ago. Mark recalled performing the joke back in 1999 during his own stand-up special, which was produced by Comedy Central. However, Steve Harvey denied any wrongdoing, challenging Mark Curry to come forward with proof that he had stolen his jokes. He responded by saying, "The only reason I'm commenting is because he keeps running his mouth about it. Now grow up. I've never stolen a joke in 35 years. Come to me like a man and tell me what the joke is." Despite Steve's denial, fans of Mark Curry took action. They dug up the joke in question and proved that Steve had indeed taken it. The routine involved a Halloween joke where Mark described how, growing up in a family with little money, he had to make do with funny and unusual costumes. Steve apparently performed the exact same joke on his show, Little Big Shots, where he told a similar story about growing up in a poor family and having to wear funny Halloween costumes. In an interview with Willie D on his podcast, Willie D Live, Mark Curry explained that Steve's motivation for stealing his material wasn't about financial gain, but more about the desire to emulate him. At first, Mark didn't mention Steve's name directly, but instead spoke about the broader issue of comedians stealing material, comparing it to what happens in the rap industry. He pointed out that while rap artists may share similar themes, their unique styles distinguish them, but with stand-up comedy, stealing jokes forces the original comedian to either defend their work or confront the thief. Mark then sent a warning to Steve, saying, "I'm going to step to you if you're stealing my set. F you." He clarified that confronting someone didn't necessarily mean it had to be physical, but it was a matter of defending his originality. He also expressed how proud he was of writing his own jokes and always striving to create material that stood out from what other comedians were doing. Mark Curry believes that his unique comedy style helps him easily detect when others steal his material, as his jokes stand out and are unlike any others. This is how he was able to spot the parts of his jokes that Steve Harvey allegedly took. Curry said, "Take the Steve Harvey thing. It's a B move. Maybe he's not stealing my material. Maybe I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and say one of his writers did it. But we all know whose material it is." He added that it wasn't about money, since Steve Harvey had plenty of that. Instead, Curry saw it as a desire for Harvey to imitate him, saying, "It looks like you want some of me. You want to be me. Therefore, you ain't got enough money." Curry believed it was clear that Steve was trying to emulate his style, something that Curry had worked hard to establish in his career. In response, Steve Harvey fired back at Mark Curry, telling him to grow up and stop making up stories. He claimed that he hadn't done stand-up comedy in years and didn't know what Curry was talking about. "Mark Curry needs to grow up," Harvey said. "I haven't been on stage since 2015. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's making stuff up. I'm at peace." However, many fans sided with Mark Curry, believing his claim that Steve Harvey wanted to be like him. Not only had Harvey allegedly stolen Curry's jokes, but he also seemed to have copied Curry's hit TV show Hanging with Mr. Cooper. Some fans pointed out the striking similarities between Harvey's show, The Steve Harvey Show, and Curry's, which aired from 1992 to 1997. Both TV shows featured a main character transitioning from a career in their passion to teaching, surrounded by comical situations involving students and staff. Katt Williams also supported the fans' observations during an interview with Shannon Sharpe, where he claimed that Steve Harvey modeled his show after Hanging with Mr. Cooper. He even accused Harvey of copying Mark Curry's famous high-top fade haircut to look more like him. "You know that famous high-top fade haircut we spoke about earlier? Now Steve got a sitcom where he's the principal, wearing a suit, and then he gets this high-top fade, making all black men think he got the best lineup in the business. It's a man unit." As discussed earlier, these men were seen as part of a group that allegedly stole jokes, characters, and even acting roles from other comedians to further their own careers. There seems to be one common thread among these men: the fear of Katt Williams. The third person allegedly involved in this group wasn't seen on stage at the 2017 Def Comedy Jam, but Katt Williams did bring up his name during an interview with Shannon Sharpe. According to Williams, the third person in question is Ricky Smiley. Katt recounted the beginning of his feud with Smiley, revealing that Smiley had lied when he claimed during his appearance on Club Shay Shay that he was originally cast to play the role of Money Mike in the Ice Cube-produced movie Friday After Next. According to Katt Williams, Ricky Smiley's version of events, that the role of Money Mike was specifically reserved for him, is far from the truth. "This man told you he had Katt Williams' role, that he was going to be Money Mike and I was going to be Santa Claus," Katt stated. "We auditioned in Los Angeles. I was there in 2011 with 200 other black comedians auditioning for the role of Money Mike. You're saying all 200 of us were auditioning, and you already had the role." Katt continued, pointing out that Smiley's claim that he had already filmed his part in 4 days was simply not true. Katt further explained that the original script for Friday After Next contained a controversial R-rated scene. In it, a group of men seek revenge on Money Mike for something he had done, forcing themselves on him. While Smiley seemed comfortable with the scene and was willing to go ahead with it if the producers chose him, Katt Williams had a different take on the matter. After reading the script, Smiley had second thoughts and requested that the producers change the scene. However, the Money Mike character in the original script was supposed to face a similar fate, Katt Williams shared. Williams then had to make a difficult decision. As a newcomer in the industry, he had to speak up in front of the cast, the studio, and the decision-makers. "If we are talking about anything else, I don't have any credibility or pull. But we're talking about comedy, where I have all the credibility and pull, Katt explained. The problem with Friday After Next is we are trying to make a classic comedy, and this comedy involves an R-rated scene. Forcibly sleeping with someone is never funny, no matter who it happens to or what the circumstances are. According to Katt, Ricky Smiley walked around the set with a certain air of superiority, acting as if he was the big star. He tried to make everyone believe that, as a movie star, radio personality, and stand-up comedian, he was more deserving of the role of Money Mike than Katt Williams. Ricky Smiley's attitude on set clearly didn't sit well with Katt Williams. According to Katt, he was so displeased that he put a clause in his contract stating he wouldn't work with Smiley again unless he agreed to wear a dress. Interestingly enough, Smiley's next film, First Sunday, saw him donning a dress for the role of Bernice Jenkins, an elderly woman in a church. He was so egregious that I put in my contract that I won't work with Ricky Smiley again unless he's in a dress, Williams said, while sipping his drink. Katt then pointed out that on First Sunday, Smiley did indeed wear a dress, confirming his point. Now, what was Ricky Smiley's next movie? Was it First Sunday? Did he wear a dress in it? You bet he did, Katt explained. This detail made it easy to see why Samuel L. Jackson might believe that Smiley had some fear of Katt. After all, if a man has enough power to influence and control your career in Hollywood, it would be wise to be cautious, because one wrong move could bring it all to an end in an instant. However, Smiley has firmly denied Katt Williams' accusations. On the January 4th episode of the Ricky Smiley Morning Show, he claimed that he had nothing but respect and love for the Friday After Next star. Smiley explained that it was the film's director, David E. Talbert, who personally asked him to take on the role of Bernice Jenkins. He also acknowledged Williams's performance as Money Mike, but explained that his role had been switched after he had originally auditioned and been cast as Money Mike. I went out to audition for Friday After Next as Money Mike, not as Santa Claus, Smiley stated, insisting that this was the truth. He went on to clarify that the original concept for Money Mike was not that of a pimp, but rather a panhandler who would spend his time hanging out in a strip mall parking lot. Nevertheless, Smiley gave credit to Katt Williams and the producers for how they ultimately revamped the character, making the film much funnier with the inclusion of the persona. Katt Williams's claim that he included a clause in his contract stating he wouldn't work with Ricky Smiley again unless he wore a dress was firmly denied by Smiley. Ricky stated that no such contract existed and expressed his disappointment in the veteran comedian for fabricating such outrageous claims. He then went on to explain why he wore a dress in his next film. According to Smiley, wearing the dress was entirely his decision and not something he was forced into. He added that he had no problem with it, as long as it provided for his family and put food on the table. Smiley pointed out that many notable male comedians had worn dresses as part of their roles, and it wasn't an uncommon practice in the industry. He cited comedy legends like Flip Wilson, who played Geraldine, Richard Pryor with his various characters, Jamie Foxx as Wanda, Martin Lawrence as Shanae, and even Tyler Perry as Medea. Smiley emphasized that putting on a dress was simply for the sake of comedy and entertainment. He explained that it had nothing to do with anyone's comfort in the role, nor did it diminish their masculinity. "Nobody wants to put on a damn dress," he said, "but it has nothing to do with my manhood being lessened." However, many fans were skeptical of Smiley's explanation. Some believed that the so-called comedy greats were either coerced or persuaded to wear dresses as part of a larger initiation into the Illuminati. Others felt that Hollywood was using these characters to turn male comedians into laughingstocks, diminishing their credibility. This led fans to believe that if Katt Williams was able to do the same to Ricky Smiley, it showed how much power he held in the comedy world. This power dynamic was further illustrated when Dave Chappelle acknowledged Katt Williams at the 2017 Def Comedy Jam. Even though Katt was sitting in the audience, Chappelle recognized his influence and gave him a salute. Meanwhile, Cedric the Entertainer and Steve Harvey seemed uneasy, possibly fearing they could be next in line to wear the infamous dress. This raises a question. If Katt Williams really has the power to make or break careers, control who wears the dress, and even shape the comedy industry like a puppet master, what else is he capable of? And more importantly, who's next? Is this just the tip of the iceberg, or are we about to uncover even darker secrets from the hidden corners of Hollywood? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more interesting news. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Goodbye.